Welcome everyone to the EOS Fireside Chat for July 12th, 2023. We got a great summer show lined up for everyone. 7 topics, 2 special guests. We're going to be starting off in just a minute here with a discussion on the HotStuff Consensus Algorithm. What does that mean? We're talking faster finality, better crypto intrinsics, new consensus possibilities. We've got Gnome from EOS Network joining us today to talk about this in just a moment. We're also going to be, of course, talking about EOS EVM Adoption, Blocsec, Motodex, Nerve Network, even a personalized introduction to EVMNS by Demo via audio message. Eden election last weekend. We're going to talk about the results. EOS NFT Twitter Spaces coming up tomorrow. We're talking Firehose and Substreams on Antelope again. Hypha has more details about their affiliate program that's been shared recently. EOS Monthly Report was just published. And then we're going to sign off with, of course, the community open mic and some off-topic banter, if that's what you guys are in the mood for. All right, so let's jump right into it. I'm going to welcome Gnome to the Fireside once again. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Stefan. Always a pleasure.
All right, so last week, while we were reviewing the Messari Q2 report for the EOS network, they talked about this upcoming HotStuff Consensus Algorithm upgrade that is coming. And I know you're very well known on the topic. I'm not sure exactly your role with that. So maybe you can start by sharing with us your role within this HotStuff Consensus Algorithm upgrade that's coming, and then some of the features and possibilities that are going to be available to the EOS network at that time.
Absolutely. So I guess I don't know if I have a formal role, but I guess I'm the lead developer, if you want. I'm the person that's been working on this, on implementing the HotStuff consensus model for Antelope and for EOS. And I've been working with some other team members from the EOS Network team, as well as some members of the EOS Network Foundation. And we've been working on this together now for several months. So I guess maybe I can start by giving a bit of an overview of what HotStuff is and how it kind of fits into the big picture. So HotStuff is a consensus mechanism that has been developed originally by VMware, which is a pretty well-known virtual machine company. They've been in the, I guess, like very well known in the technology space for a long time, and they built essentially like virtualization technologies. And they came up with a mechanism to essentially help like state replication across different servers, different environments, and different I guess like networks that they called HotStuff in 2018. And that was a, let's call it like a basic building block, an algorithm that could be used in different contexts. And a few years after, like a year or two after, it was selected by Libra, which was at the time the cryptocurrency project led by Facebook to essentially serve their consensus algorithm for the Libra project. So unfortunately, Libra didn't make it. The project was scrapped in the middle of it. But it's still quite interesting to see that a company with the resources as Facebook decided, when they did all that research, all of that experimentation, they essentially landed on HotStuff as the most state-of-the-art, the most advanced consensus mechanism, and they selected it for Libra. And since then, that mechanism has been implemented by a number of other latest generation blockchains, such as Aptos and Sui, like two of the, I guess, like main examples of implementations of HotStuff in the wild. So it's already been proven, it already works. And it is definitely very, very interesting from a technical standpoint, as well as from a, I guess, governance standpoint, because it increases it really increases the range of different consensus mechanisms that can be built now with an algorithm like this one. So I don't know if you have any questions so far, if all of what I'm saying makes sense, if anyone has anything they'd like to ask, I can keep going for a while, but I wanted to give that the initial overview.
Great, thank you. So far, so good on my side. I do have, but I would love to hear from people in the audience. If you guys have any comments or questions or any particular topics that you're specifically interested in hearing more about today, now is a great time to jump on stage here, ask a question, or even share it in the text chat. So I'm just gonna give it a couple moments here, and if not, we'll let Gnome continue on.
I don't have any specific questions, but I'm very excited to learn about the technical aspects of this.
There you go.
Right.
Okay, so let's keep it going, Guillaume, if you want to.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. So we have to understand like what the current mechanism for reaching consensus in both EOS.io and now Antelope is we have a number of block producers, typically 21. That's the number that has been used by most implementation of the protocol. And then each of these block producers will produce blocks in sequence. They produce typically 12 blocks, and then they hand over the production to the next block producer. The next block producer produces their 12 blocks, and so on and so forth until you come full circle, and it comes back to the first block producer in the list. And now the consensus protocol, what it does is each time a new block producer adds a block on top of the chain, blocks that are previous to that one, that are essentially like older blocks than that one, receive, if you want, a confirmation. And once you've received a sufficient number of confirmation, the block is considered final. That threshold is currently set at 2/3 plus 1 of the block producers. So essentially, once 2/3 plus 1 block producers voted that the block is valid, this block reaches a status that we call final and cannot be reversed. So at that point, it becomes safe to act on that transaction and consider it irreversible. But this process also takes quite a bit of time. Like since you have all these block producers, they have to produce 12 blocks each, and you have 21 of them, and you actually have to do 2 rounds of that to reach full finality. That process takes just under 3 minutes, which is, I mean, still a lot faster than a lot of other blockchains and a lot of transactions in, let's say, like the traditional financial system, but still quite long when it comes to, let's say, like the typical experience that people have when it comes to Web 2.0, right? So there's been a lot of research that has been done in trying to shorten that time to finality. And HotStuff is probably like the most advanced algorithm that allows that. The way that HotStuff work is instead of waiting for an implicit confirmation by a block producer that they agree on a specific block by producing a block on top of the chain when it's their turn to produce, it essentially works by broadcasting the block to everyone and then having all of these block producers essentially broadcast a message saying, yep, we agree with this version of block 1000 or block 1001 or block 1002. And this whole process is happening near instantly. That's why we call it also instant finality, because it only takes a split second for these messages to propagate and to be received by the rest of the network. So now we have a much faster time to finality. We're able to do this in, few seconds, potentially even less, as opposed to several minutes. And it also incorporates a lot of additional benefits, such as having a more or less constant time to finality regardless of the number of block producers. So that's one of the benefits that this new algorithm brings. Is before, with the current algorithm that we have in Antelope, we have to wait until all these block producers produce a block to essentially receive their vote that the block is valid and final. And if you add more block producers, you also add more time to finality. So if you were to double from 21 block producers to 42 block producers, you would also double from 3 minutes to 6 minutes the time to finality. But now with HotStuff, we're able to do that a lot faster, and doesn't really matter how many block producers you have. It will still be, like a few seconds or split second before you get all their confirmations, and you're able to move on, like knowing that this block is final and cannot be reversed. So this is one of the reasons why we selected this algorithm as a solution for the time to finality question. Our mandate initially was not specifically to implement HotStuff itself, but it was rather to figure out how to reach a faster time to finality. And as we started the research, as we discussed with other people in the space, the ENF engineers, and more specifically Areg Erepetian, who's been working with the ENF and with Block One before that, it became clear that this was the best solution that was available. So we decided to implement HotStuff as our solution to this instant finality question. So far so good. Any questions? Happy to answer any questions or discuss any of the specifics.
Yeah, Drew asked a question in the chat here. He asks, does this process consume TPS throughput like Solana's internal consensus transactions, or do they just do it on peer-to-peer?
It's only happening on peer-to-peer. It doesn't have to be. The messages are not. They don't consume throughput. So this is also an improvement, in my opinion, and probably in the opinion of a lot of engineers. It's an improvement over the mechanism of Solana, for instance, because we don't need to reach consensus in band. We can reach consensus out of band without having that information recorded on the blockchain and quote quote polluting the chain. And it also has it also results in additional cryptographic proofs that can be used for other things. So as some of you may know, we also have been working for the last few years on a trustless IBC protocol that we released about 6 months ago now, that runs on EOS and on UX Network, on Wax, on Telos, and probably other chains will implement it at some point, or they actually may have done that already. The code is open source, so I'm just not aware, but they might have done this. But one of the key benefits of adding instant finality and HotStuff consensus is that now IBC can also benefit from that near instant finality. And instead of having IBC transfers or transactions taking 3 minutes, like it is the case right now, we'll be able to shorten that time to a few seconds.
Very exciting.
I've got a question, Guillaume.
Yes.
Can you talk about the implications of, in layman's term, maybe for people, the implications of what will be possible once this is essentially once we hard fork to that, and this is essentially implemented on, and the implications on things such as ZK proofs, for examples, and why it's so monumental. In how the new code will be able to, open up new possibilities that we currently don't have, and just performance-wise, just how crazy this is.
Absolutely. So
I know you don't like talking about it, so not a planted question at all.
I love talking about that stuff. But so okay, yeah. So obviously, I mean, time to finality is I guess, like, in providing, when we want to provide a Web 3.0 experience that feels like a Web 2.0 experience, where everything is instant, where everything is responsive, this is key to being able to achieve that. Because as most of you probably know, I mean, if you look at the current Web 3.0 experience, it's clunky. You have the wallet, you have to sign the transaction, you have to wait for finality. It takes a long time, and it doesn't feel as good as it used to with the Web 2.0 experience that was relying on the client server architecture, and that was basically what people became accustomed to. Like, they are used to this nearly instant transaction time, and now it feels like we've regressed by moving to this Web 3.0 because of all of the additional overhead and all the complexity that that ensues. And we understand that there's definite benefits with Web 3.0, things like like ownership of your assets, of your keys, things like traceability, auditability, censorship resistance, all of these great features. But we kind of had to take that step back, unfortunately, where we're increasing the time to finality for these transactions. So what we're doing with this instant finality now is we're bringing back the time to finality to what we're expecting from a Web 2.0 experience. And now we get the best of both worlds. We get all of the decentralization and immutability and censorship resistance and true ownership of assets and whatnot that is part of the Web 3.0 offering, at the same time that we get the ease of use and the responsiveness and the great instant experience that we are used to in the Web 2.0 experience. Now, one of the things, the building blocks to this instant finality, to the HotStuff consensus algorithm, is something called aggregate signatures. Sorry, and aggregate signatures is a cryptography concept that is, I guess, like relatively new compared to the other cryptography tools that we typically see in crypto, and it has a very interesting, I guess, characteristic, is that now you can take multiple signatures and multiple public keys and combine them into a single public key and a single signature, and you can evaluate that a signature, an aggregate signature as we call it, has been produced by an aggregate public key, which is really a combination of different public keys and different messages that have been signed, or the same messages that has been signed by different private key owners, and you can verify all of this in a single operation. So this essentially reduces, first of all, the time that it takes to perform these calculations. It reduces the size of the messages because these now signatures can be compressed. You can have as many signatures as you want and compress them into a single signature. And you can verify this as a single operation. So this is key when it comes to scaling this technology. There's some static in my, I don't know what's, okay, thanks. So this is key when it comes to this technology. This is one of the reasons why I was saying earlier, we're now able to scale, for example, the number of block producers without adding to the time to finality, because we're able to compress all of these signatures into one and essentially perform a single verification of these signatures. So now, even further than that, as we were essentially working on this, we identified an opportunity where we could actually take this these aggregate signatures technology and extract, if you will, the core building blocks of these aggregate signatures into more abstract and more generic building blocks, cryptographic building blocks that can be used for other things, such as Yves was saying, using these building blocks for ZK snarks, ZK starks, and other zero knowledge proof systems. And we worked together with Matthias Schoenbeck from the ZIAS team to implement these cryptographic primitive into the core LEAP protocol to essentially have a better implementation of the aggregate signatures, as well as open the door to multiple additional zero knowledge protocols to be developed as part of the native tooling on Antelope. So this is extremely interesting because it opens the door to so many new possibilities, including confidential transactions, including additional privacy mechanisms, systems that are using addresses instead of accounts, which I believe are ultimately prerequisites for massive adoption of blockchain technologies. Nobody wants to have all of their financial data on chain and have their competitors and other financial predators figuring out what they're doing with everything. Everyone has a definitely like a right to privacy and a desire for at least some degree of privacy. So this is fundamental in achieving that goal. Coming from the traditional financial industry, I can tell you that none of the big financial firms are interested in doing any significant business on blockchains until these kind of protocols exist. Otherwise they would be putting their assets and the assets of their customers at risk, because obviously there's a lot of privacy related questions when it comes to what people do with their finances, right? So what we've been able to achieve, thanks to the hard work of Matthias, has been quite groundbreaking. We've essentially now have the probably the fastest implementation in the world when it comes to these crypto intrinsics. We're faster than Ethereum. We're faster than the other chains that we've looked at. Like we've got some massive improvements across the board when it comes to these crypto primitives. And we're able to verify these ZK proofs in roughly, I mean, we're going to run like full benchmarks on hardware that's equivalent to what people run, what block producers run on, let's say, EOS mainnet, but we're confident it's going to be around 1 millisecond verification time. To give an example, there were some of these similar intrinsics that were added I think in Leap 3.0 that were essentially allowing verification in about 10 milliseconds, which is still very good, but we're basically now improving by a factor of 10 over the implementations that have been built so far. And this is essentially like 100 times faster than a pure WebAssembly or WASM implementation that people were expecting. I guess if you were to write the whole protocol into a smart contract, it would take about 100 milliseconds to perform the verification, which is probably too long in the context of a blockchain like EOS. But when you shrink that verification time to only 1 millisecond, now it's extremely competitive, and you're able to perform a lot of actions in the block, a lot of verification actions in the block, and now it becomes absolutely viable and extremely exciting in terms of what it allows. It's a very important milestone that I think a lot of people will be building upon, and that will lead to some massive improvements in technology across the board for Antelope chains. So I don't know if that answer your question, Eve. If there's any other aspect that you want me to cover, I'm happy to.
Yeah, it wasn't really a question as much as giving you an opportunity to talk about it. Especially, we see that there are a lot of narratives surrounding ZKs right now, zero knowledge proofs, that are quite bullish. And EOS, I mean, to resume what you said, basically with the implementation that you're working on and what's possible, we're talking about 10 to 100x multiplier in performance versus what's currently out there. And so it's quite massive. And as you said, it basically makes the function now more realistic, more attainable, more functional for what you can actually do with it. And that's incredibly exciting.
Absolutely, and the key element here is that now, I mean, there's been systems that have been using ZK proofs for a long time. You know, you have blockchains like Monero and Zcash that are built around that concept, but they are a single-use chain. They essentially only allow for a transfer of tokens. They don't have smart contracts. They don't have any of the capabilities that EOS or Antelope chains have. Now, what we're doing is we're incorporating the same capability, but natively into a smart contract platform. So this is amazing, because now you can have, for example, a DEX that natively implements these type of technologies, and where you can be guaranteed that, cryptographically speaking, all the transactions are accounted for, and there's no double spending, there's no creation of additional coins and whatnot. But nobody really sees what's happening on the DEX. You don't see who's trading what, who's getting what out of it. And this is massive. Like, this is personally, this is the problem that I wanted to solve when I left my career in traditional finance and went into crypto, because I saw how people in position of authority in the traditional markets were abusing their privilege and were abusing their positioning to take advantage of all of these issues. You know, like, you had all of these high frequency arbitrage systems. You had systems where people that were closer to the internet backbone were essentially intercepting the traffic and were front running orders, and they were reorganizing the transactions in a way that were beneficial to them, and so on and so forth. So I mean, this was after a few years in that space, I became really, like, disgusted with this kind of behavior that was commonplace. And when I saw Bitcoin and crypto, I saw this as an opportunity to reimagine the financial system in a way that would really focus on price discovery, and not on access or bandwidth speed, or being part of the right gang or whatever. You know, like, I strongly believe in price discovery as a fundamental tool for freedom, for markets to work efficiently. So to me, to see these massive improvements in the underlying technology that now allow us to have markets which are truly free and open and private at the same time, this is massive. Any other questions on the topic?
People will probably want to know, when do we plan on deploying this? When is this going live?
Right. Let me just answer. Trimbot is asking, is there any resistance from existing DPs to move toward HotStuff? I haven't seen any. Quite the contrary, actually. Everyone is really excited about it. I think it. There will probably there will be discussions about what is possible, because there's a lot of different new, I guess, mechanisms that are available for when it comes to governance. And you can re-architect a whole new governance system based on this. But I think this has been seen by everyone as a very positive development. At the end of the day, it will allow everyone to experiment with different governance systems, and ultimately choose whatever makes the most sense. So no, I haven't seen any resistance. Quite the contrary, I've seen a lot of encouragement and a lot of questions. When instant finality, like Eve is asking now. So so yeah, I mean, when is this going to be released? We're looking at Q4 of this year, most likely. Hopefully sooner the better. It's obviously like a very big upgrade to the system, to the software. This is, in terms of scope, this is equivalent to what Ethereum went through with the merge, the upgrade to Ethereum 2.0. So this is definitely like the same analogy still holds, where we're trying to change some people were saying you're trying to change the tires of the car as the car is running. But I think Charles Ushkinson was saying that it's more like changing the engine of the car when the car is running, and that's probably a better analogy, because this is so close to the core of the software that it requires a lot of engineering, a lot of testing, a lot of really hard work. But because the way that the Antelope software has been built, and because of the great work that the ENF engineers have been putting into this, it is definitely a lot. I suspect. I mean, I haven't done the work for Ethereum, but I believe it's a lot easier to upgrade Antelope than it is to upgrade Ethereum. And yeah, I think probably sometime around Q4, the code is going to be ready. Of course, after that, it requires BPs to review the code, to agree on the activation timeline, upgrade and activation timeline. So that I don't know, like it's going to be up to them. But yeah, I think sometime in early 2024, it would be realistic for the activation date. Maybe even before. So
I guess I can share some alpha that it has to be before December 5th or December 10th of this year, approximately. That's the target.
nice.
And we are on track, and it is realistic. I was going to joke around and say Q4 2025 because that's how long it took Ethereum 2.0, but no. We've got this hard fork thing in order at this point. There is a question from Tony. You asked Tony if it's a hard fork, essentially, that all BPs need to agree to use on all Antelope chains. So yes, on an individual chain, sure. Not necessarily on all Antelope chains. I mean, if people don't want to upgrade, they don't need to. On that, though, one thing that is important to mention is currently between the 4 coalition chains we have IBC running, when a particular chain does the hard fork and then activates instant finality, it will essentially break IBC compatibility with the chains that have not updated to the latest version until they update. So anything that's on either side of the IBC bridge remains functional, but the bridge itself essentially loses function.
Well, I mean, maybe not. We'll see. We'll see, because we were just having a call with the ENF engineer a bit earlier today, and there might be a way actually to prevent that from breaking. The IBC contract could be kind of rewritten in a way that would support both modes and potentially allow for like a one chain being upgraded and the other one not being upgraded just yet, and it would potentially still work. So we're still like I think it's going to be doable. It's a bit early, but I think I'm confident. So
you're confident that it's doable and that you're going to do it, because those are two separate things. I'm confident it's doable. I'm not convinced somebody wants to do it.
No, I think we'll do it, and it's yeah.
All right. But yes, Tony, it is a hard fork.
Buy me a beer if I succeed.
One beer? That's it? That's a really cheap. Yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. That's pretty cheap. Much cheaper than your usual rate. So yes, this is a hard fork. So yes, the idea is every node needs to update. And so similar to the hard fork of in EOS's case, September 21st last year, it is a huge coordination. So when I'm talking about, for example, early December as the current tentative approximation for activation, if you walk that back, that means that roughly a month or a little bit more than a month before, it's already been running on the testnets. Roughly a month or a little bit before that, it's been running and the code's been deployed, and we're maybe in RC1, RC2, whatever it is. So by the time Q3 hits, we should have the code ready and essentially deployed in various locations. And so, but the coordination for the actual fork activation, it is a very long process. We're talking about 2-3 months of coordination, of actual work to coordinate the final push the button type of thing when everybody's pushing the button. So this is a very, very, very lengthy, and like Guillaume was mentioning, it is of the same magnitude of what we see in other chains when they upgrade their consensus algorithms, like Ethereum 2.0, for example. In Antelope's case, this is one of the functions, features, advantages of Antelope is it's designed to be able to do this, to be able to hard fork, upgrade itself. Think about it like if you're using your computer and there's a new version of Windows, there's a patch or whatever, you don't need to reformat your computer to reinstall a new operating system. You just upgrade the operating system. EOS is very much, and Antelope, is very much built like that. And we've been using that functionality more and more. And the cadence that we are trying to do with the ENF, we've mentioned this before, is that the spring updates are of the non-breaking nature. So, anybody can update at their own rate, just like we just went through 2 months ago. But the fall/winter updates, so Q3, or in this case, probably Q4, are of the breaking nature. So the idea is that EOS, anyways, in its for us, we would be doing a hard fork every year. That is the idea. And just think about that. It took 4, and usually it takes between 2 to 4 years for others to do something similar. We're aiming to do this yearly.
I have a question for Gnome. Hi, Gnome.
Hi.
This is Perry.
Hi, Perry.
Hi. You mentioned the very admirable goal of addressing front running, which is just a huge, and I share that as being one of the highest potential use cases. And then you shifted to governance. And governance is a very general term, and so I want to ask if you could maybe define that a little bit more, but what you mean in terms of governance in this context.
Absolutely. So I guess like there's, I mean, as you said, it's a very very big term, and it's I guess like to understand really what that means, it helps to understand also how HotStuff works. So we now, like, once we upgrade to HotStuff, we have a number of additional tools that are at our disposal when it comes to establishing roles and responsibilities of various entities on a network like EOS, in order to create that broader governance framework for the chain. So we're essentially breaking down the role of block producer into 3 different subcomponents. Today, block producers are doing all 3, but now with this upgrade, it becomes an option to separate these 3 responsibilities, to assign these responsibilities to different entities, and to come up with different mechanisms to select these entities. So this is actually quite maybe a bit abstract, but when it comes to current selection of block producers, we use the DPoS system, which is delegated proof of stake, where token holders essentially vote for between 1 and 30 different block producers, and there's essentially a snapshot that's taken every minute of the total votes that all the block producers have received, and that leads to the election of the top 21 block producer in the chain. But now with HotStuff, we're essentially, as I said, we're splitting these roles into 3 different sub roles, if you want. One is the role of a block proposer, so it's an entity that will essentially at any given time provide the rest of the network with a copy of what their, let's call it like their pool of transaction looks like that particular node sees all these pending transactions and says, okay, here's my copy of that transaction pool. That's a proposal for a block at a specific time. And then you have another entity that is the block finalizer, that has the responsibility to vote on such a proposal, say if they agree with it or not. And then you have the third entity, the third role, which is the consensus leader. And the consensus leader aggregates the vote of the block finalizers into what we call quorum certificates, which are proofs that a majority, for example, of finalizers agreed that a proposal was valid. So these, by having these 3 different sub roles and having different mechanisms also to select how these roles are determined, we essentially have a much, I guess, much bigger range of different mechanisms that could be built. I know you and I, Perry, met through Eden fractal elections, and this would be now a possibility where you could literally have, let's say, like block proposers or consensus leaders selected through a mechanism such as Eden fractal elections, and then be tasked with proposing block candidates at a specific height or aggregating the consensus messages that are issued by the finalizers into quorum certificates. So this is just one example. I mean, it goes. We can probably brainstorm and create a million different ways that this could work. You could include proof of work in the selection process. You could include like democratic voting. You could include just about anything you can think of as a selection mechanism for any of these three roles, as well as for determining how long an entity should be performing a specific role, what would be the conditions under which they would be booted out of the process and replaced by another entity, and so on and so forth. So it really kind of brings down, it decouples a lot of these things that were kind of like very monolithic, very difficult to break apart in the old way of doing things, and now gives us a lot more flexibility when it comes to designing new governance mechanisms.
Wow,
I hope that answers the question.
It does, and it's inspiring to hear that a technical group of that caliber has addressed these governance issues. And I would encourage everybody in the governance groups, the governance fractals, and in our community to dive into what Gnome's group has done, learn from it. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from each other, even though one is very technical and the other one is a little more abstract. And wow, I think it's inspiring what you just said, and hopefully we can somehow learn from each other on at that level. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Mo's DS is asking, what implications will this have for token holders who have their tokens on exchanges, if any? One of the big, I guess, one of the very interesting, I guess, derivative of instant finality is now we're going to be able to have, I guess, like what we call light client verification and validation of proofs. And the reason why that's important is until now, it is quite difficult. Let's face it, it is quite difficult to run infrastructure for EOS and Antelope compared to other blockchain. It takes typically a lot of space. It has like more complicated hardware requirements, and there's very little in terms of light client support. What a light client is a let's say like a piece of software that is able to communicate with a network like EOS and only need a subset, a fraction of the data that the full node has in order to verify and prove that certain transactions took place. So when it comes to support by exchanges, now it will become possible for exchanges to run a very lightweight software that will still be able to alert them when a transaction takes place and when people are transferring money in and out, and essentially incorporate that into their infrastructure without having to run full nodes, which has been a kind of pain point for a lot of exchanges that wanted to support EOS and other Antelope chains. So that's one of the ways that this is going to impact exchanges. There's also I guess on the other side of the spectrum, having I guess instant finality and HotStuff consensus also improves the I guess the user experience when it comes to dexes, when it comes to interchain transfers and so on and so forth, which might actually I guess like move a lot of the let's say liquidity and trading activity to on-chain instead of relying exclusively on centralized exchange, because today they still provide probably a better user experience than most on-chain dexes. Now we're basically leveling the playing field, and we're also adding, I guess, like the capability for dexes to feel a lot more like centralized exchanges and offer much better user experience with less friction and speedier, faster transactions, or at least when it comes to interchain communications. So I think this is also like extremely promising building block for all of these on-chain applications. What, if any, is the effect of instant finality on micro forks? When it comes to micro forks, typically these are essentially like, as the name implies, these are very short-lived forks where two block producers, for example, might have a different version of the chain due to some timing issues, or maybe when the blocks are too big. It takes some time for the blocks to propagate, and maybe one node that's at one end of the world did not receive a block in time, and they assume that the block did not get produced, so they produce another one instead, and so on. So there's definitely a way with instant finality to reach consensus on what the current version of events is and what is the current version of the chain much faster. So we expect to see a significant decrease in the number of micro forks, especially when it comes to I guess like large block size and like blocks that are very heavy. We can propagate I guess like these consensus messages very quickly. So because they're much smaller, so we can reach consensus probably faster, at least like on in a lot of scenarios.
All right, that was great. Lots of exciting information here. There we go. Yeah, let's keep it coming. If you guys have more questions, and Gnome has time for a couple more, let's take a couple more, and then we'll move on to some other topics.
Perry's asking if there's a GitHub other resource where an explanation of the new governance architecture changes are discussed. We're not talking about governance changes just yet, because obviously this is what we're doing here is we're let's say we're I guess improving the software in a way that these things are now possible. But it's very important to understand we're not advocating for any change to the governance mechanism of any of these chains. This is not our place as engineers to take these decisions. These are much broader questions that have to do not only with the technology, but with the social aspects, with the capital aspects, with the democratic aspects of all of these communities. And each of these communities also have different traditions and different, I guess, like objectives that might or might not, like want to implement some of these different mechanisms. So we're providing the options. The options are there, and then each of these communities can decide like the best way to use this technology to achieve whatever goals they have. So I mean, in a very abstract way, I guess you can probably find some interesting discussions in any other community that has implemented HotStuff, like the Aptos blockchain or Sui blockchain. I'm sure they discuss about these kind of things. And there might have been also like a few other interviews or a few other podcasts in which I participated when we discussed a few of these things as well. But again, I mean, as an engineer, I'm not my role is to give the communities some options, and then the communities can decide what they want and how to best serve their members and token holders. But like again, the having options, I think, is always good. So people are free to experiment.
Guillaume, this is Lovejoy. On your last point, which was extremely well articulated, I will say. At what point does the current system of DPoS stop being DPoS? Or like at what point will we cross a threshold into something else? Is that purely like, is that the switch to HotStuff itself, or is that more enabling, flipping some of these switches or pulling some of these levers that are enabled through HotStuff that could take place later? Like at what point do we? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I mean, the current consensus model of EOS and most Antelope chains actually is DPoS plus ABFT. So DPoS is essentially delegated proof of stake. That's the mechanism through which block producers are selected. And ABFT, asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance, is the way through which these block producers will reach consensus on a I guess like specific version of the blockchain history. So really HotStuff now allows for a change in both of these aspects of the consensus mechanism. It allows for a change in DPoS if we decide, and it allows for a change in the ABFT side of the equation. But the upgrade that we're making, we're only touching, if you will, the ABFT side of the equation. Although the HotStuff allows also changing the DPoS side of the equation, we're not changing that just yet. We're creating a mechanism through which now this can be changed, and before that was not even possible because the two like DPoS plus ABFT were so intertwined that it was just not possible to change one without changing the other. But now with HotStuff, we're able to decouple these two aspects and to essentially have new mechanisms to select these block producers, changing the DPoS side of things, while also preserving the new consensus, the new way to reach consensus that is offered by HotStuff. So as we release this upgrade, the only thing that will be different is going to be the time to finality is going to drop from 3 minutes to 2 or 3 seconds. Now, it's also like this is the first thing that will happen, but it will also have that under the hood, there will now also exist the possibility of changing the way that block producers are selected, or changing the number of block producers, or giving them specific roles, such as I was mentioning earlier, like the role of block proposer, the role of block finalizer, of a consensus leader, potentially electing or selecting different people to perform these different roles, using possibly other systems to reach to select these entities other than straight DPoS, and so on and so forth. So this is like I said, we're providing additional options. By default, the system will still remain a DPoS system, but now every chain will have the ability to modify their governance and to decide on another path if they choose so. If they want to stick with what currently is implemented on the selection mechanism, they can keep what is there. If they want to experiment with other things, they can launch a testnet, try it out, see how that works. New entities can launch new chains and see like how that works. We also have IBC, right? So I mean, it becomes much easier to experiment with these with these new concepts now that we're able to have trustless communication between all these chains. So. Drew was also asking, curious if EVM will improve with that stuff as well. Yes, there's definitely it's also one of the reasons why this is such a high priority for EOS and for Telos, is because it will improve also the time to finality for EVM transactions. So definitely going to help around on that front as well. And then UX IBC model, yes, it is deployed on the 4 chains of the Antelope coalition. So EOS, UX, Telos, and Wax. I believe there's also other chains that are looking at it, that want to implement it. and deploy it. And it's a free open source technology, so anyone can literally like just take the smart contracts, deploy them on their chain, deploy them on their token, and have their token and or chains connected to the ecosystem. Yep.
I just wanted to do a quick follow-up to my previous question, and thanks for the answer to that. So leaving governance sort of aside for the moment, in terms of decomposing the role of block producer into these various other entities, could you speak to any technical or performance advantages to doing this?
Absolutely. So one of the at least like for me, one of the very interesting things that I can see developing out of this, and I mean it's not necessarily something that people will do right away, but now it becomes possible. So there's basically now the ability to do what I'm going to say next. Right now, when a block producer is elected and when they're essentially producing blocks, they are essentially given a blank check, if you want, like a full authority in determining what the order of transactions is for that period of time. So essentially, like you can have a block producer. Now they're elected, they're in the schedule, they're producing blocks, and they're receiving transactions from everyone else on the network, and their job is to organize these transactions, to sequentially order them, and then to produce a block and say, like, this is the basic source of truth for that block. This is the order in which these transactions happen. So that's a big responsibility, especially when it comes to, like financial transactions, because they can reorder these transactions in a way that would benefit them, for example. So I mean, it would be very easy for a block producer to sandwich trades, to front run trades, to reorganize all of these transactions in a way that makes sense for them. So you see a big order coming on an AMM, maybe you like slip your own order before it and you sell right after. So that's called sandwiching. So you're essentially like taking advantage of that big whale making an order. You're taking the transaction before them, then you sell it back to them and you make an instant profit. So that's I mean, one of the ways that like people actually do on Ethereum is called MEV, like a maximum extraction of value, or and this is to me like abusing a position of authority or privilege in a sense. So this is the kind of things that I'm trying to mitigate with technologies like this. Now, what you can do to counter that, for example, you could imagine how you would rework some of the protocols so that now you have more than one block proposer that is essentially like submitting what their block would look like, and you could compare them. So you could say, for example, okay, you know what, like we're going to have, instead of having just one block proposer for each block, let's have 5 or 7 or 11 or whatever, and just compare all of these blocks together and see which one is the most quote average of all of these blocks. Because of course you're going to have some discrepancy. Like if my node is in Hong Kong and there's another node in whatever Brazil and a node in North America and New York, they might have slight differences in the content of a block proposal, because it takes a different maybe takes a little bit more time for a transaction that originated from Europe to reach, let's say, like South America than it takes to reach North America or Asia or something. But if you see something that's really, really out of place, where like everyone has more or less the same block proposal and there's one of the proposer that has a block that is wildly different than the others, it might be not necessarily like a proof of wrongdoing, but it is kind of suspicious. And if it keeps repeating, like happening over and over again, then there might be actually a cause for concern. So this is one of the examples of how having like separate groups and having potentially like multiple block proposers as a system function, how that can help in designing better and more trustworthy systems. That would be one example. Another example is if you have, let's say, like, because I mean, you have all sorts of entities on a network like EOS. Some block producers are technically more savvy. They're better at running infrastructure. Some block producers are essentially more, let's say, like capitally invested. They have more capital in the ecosystem, and they want to have a say in the governance of the system. Maybe some other entities represent a larger number of smaller token holders, and so on and so forth. And they might all be good at certain things, but not necessarily as good as like in other things. So, for example, I was telling you all about the three roles. There's one role that's called consensus leader. A consensus leader, their task is to aggregate as many quorum messages from the finalizers and organizing them into quorum certificates. They have no authority whatsoever. They cannot do anything really other than collecting these quorum certificates and presenting them to the rest of the network. So for these particular entities that are acting as consensus leader, one very good way, in my opinion, of selecting them would be technical competency, as well as, I guess, like network connectivity with other actors in the network. We don't really care if they have a lot of money. We don't even really care if they are trustworthy or not, because the only thing that they can do is produce a message, the consensus message or not. And if they don't, they are replaced by someone else. But you could essentially delegate that job to only like very, very good technical teams that are very well connected and that have like very good data centers with connections to all the other continents and all the other data centers and very high bandwidth and whatnot. And that would essentially increase the resilience and I guess performance of the network. So that's another example on how you can now play with these different rules and optimize the network even further. And improve performance and reliability and so on and so forth.
Epic. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Pleasure.
Pretty epic.
What's the difference
indeed.
between a side chain and sister chain? If we have more, like I was going to take that. Maybe I have one more question from Trimbut, the difference between a side chain and sister chain. Semantics, really, because technically speaking, the way that I personally like to describe it is a side chain would be a chain that uses the same token than the main chain. So for example, imagine a scenario in which you want to scale EOS, adding more transactions per second, adding more throughput. You could have like EOS dot like whatever A, EOS.B, EOS.C. These would all be side chains of EOS that would all use the EOS token, and staking the EOS token, or rather using the power up model, would grant resources to these side chains, for instance. So that would be what I would call a side chain. When I talk about a sister chain, I would say typically these would be chains that have a different token, but they are still using the same, either EOS.io or Antelope software, and they're still able to communicate and work, let's say, like relatively the same way. But that's yeah, like I said, semantics. It's really a semantic question. So anyway, up to you, Stefan. If you want to keep, if you want me to.
If there are more questions and you want to answer them, I'm not going to stop anyone. This has been great.
I would just ask if Gnome could take out of his extremely busy schedule an hour or so and visit us at Eden Fractal. I think just explaining to us the thought processes and the nomenclature that you've created around these different roles, I think at the very least they would be inspiring to us because I think we're addressing similar problems at a different level of abstraction. So I know you're very busy, but if you could get together with Dan and maybe arrange some kind of presentation to us, that would be just a huge thing, I think. So thank you.
Sure. Maybe Dan, if you want, you can just ping me and we can schedule that.
Sounds great. I'll send you a message, Gnome, and thanks so much for sharing everything you're working on. Super inspiring, and thank you, Perry, as well. So yeah, looking forward to discussing that more, and also at Alien Worlds too. Thanks a lot, and thanks everyone.
All right. I guess we'll leave it there. Casual 65-minute segment to open the show. Here, I thought yesterday this would be a short show. I'm always wrong when I think that. It's been great. Gnome, thanks for joining us. Thanks for answering all of these questions. Thank you for everyone who participated from the chat, asking great questions on the mic, in the chat. Love to see it. All right. So yeah, thanks, Gnome, and come back anytime when you've got some more stuff you want to share with us.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. So before we keep going, a bit of housekeeping. Pop token promos are available. Pop tokens are available to be claimed in the PopBot chat. As always, prizes for last week's monthly raffle have not been sent yet, but these gift boxes are coming soon, still in production. And wherever you're listening into, whether it's on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, leave us a like, subscribe, retweet, reshare, do all the things. Engage with the show, leave a comment. We love it when you guys do that. All right, we're gonna move on to our next topics. I'm gonna go a bit quickly over this one, and then we've got a couple more guests that are waiting to talk to us, so we'll get to them very shortly. So, next topic today, EOS EVM adoption continues to grow. So we've had a nice bunch of tweets this week from partnerships that the EOS Network Foundation is highlighting. I'm gonna go over them real quickly here. First up, we've got Blocsec. The ENF is excited to announce a partnership with Blocsec team, bringing robust auditing and increased trust to the EOS EVM ecosystem. Blocsec will be undertaking an in-depth audit of both the EOS EVM smart contract and certain projects built on the EOS EVM. So there's more information there in that nice tweet thread from the ENF if you're interested in more information about these upcoming audits for the EOS EVM. In terms of GameFi news on the EVM, we've got Motodex that has added the EOS EVM as a supported network of their dApp. Love to see it. Enhanced project structure and internal plugins, quality assurance in progress, and lots more coming. From the world of Motodex, I got a question while I was reviewing the story. Is this game also a decentralized exchange because they have DEX in the name? And from what I can tell, no, this is a game and not a decentralized exchange. And then another update from Nerve Network, where they're excited to share an upcoming integration with the EOS EVM network. Nerve products include Nerve Bridge, Nerve Swap, Nerve Farm, and Swapbox that will fully support the EOS EVM and deliver seamless bridge service to the community. So we're actually trying to get them to join us on the Fireside, maybe next week or the week after, in order for them to introduce themselves to the community and talk a bit more about their project. I don't know too much about this project just yet, but from what I understand, it would be another option for bridging in assets from other EVMs to the EOS EVM. Anyone from the ENF here have anything else to add about these projects? Feel free to jump in here. If not, I'm gonna move on to our next EVM project that we're gonna be talking about a bit today, EVM name service. All right, so EVMNS is a distributed and open extensible multi-chain digital identity domain naming system built on the EVM and EOS. I've been in communication with Demo, the marketing manager from EVMNS, invited on the Fireside, but since they're in Asia, the timing doesn't really work. So what they did instead was they recorded a short audio message for us, about 3 minutes. So I'm going to play this clip from Demo, the marketing manager for EVMNS, and he does have an accent, so he's also provided a script for us. So I'm going to be copy pasting that script into the chat in order to help you guys listen along to the message. So there we go. I'd like to introduce you guys to the EVMNS.
Hello everyone, I'm the marketing manager of EVMNS. It's my great pleasure to introduce EVMNS to Fireside Chat community and the EOS community. EVMNS, the full name is EOS EVM Service, which is a distributed, open, and scalable decentralized identifier domain name system built on EOS EVM. By absorbing the advantages of existing DID projects to empower major project teams and contribute to the prosperous development of EOS ecosystem and carry forward the co-build, co-share, co-govern spirit of Web3. In terms of technological innovation, we determined to comprehensively solve the zero-waste character problem and enhance the uniqueness of DID as NFT. We will focus on developing decentralized business cards, decentralized websites, and other applications to lay a solid foundation for serving billion-level user size. We also have a super airdrop to bridge EOS mainnet users. We will airdrop 12-character .evm names to 5 million plus accounts on EOS blockchain, allowing EOS mainnet users access to EOS EVM without any barriers, and let them experience DeFi, GameFi, social fund projects on EVM. I'd like to introduce one exciting feature of EVMNS registration, the referral reward system. The users who refer their friends to register a .evm name will receive the referral rewards with top of 35% of the registration fee. Lastly, let me release the registration price of EVMNS names and the renewal fee. The 3-character names will at 100 USDT, 4-character at 50 USDT, and 5-character or above at 5 USDT. The renewal fee of our names for each year will be 5 USDT, and all payments will be settled in EOS token. Thanks for listening to the EVMNS introduction. We will launch soon and do some campaigns to promote our project. Please follow our Twitter and join Telegram group, and you will know more about us.
There you go. All right. Thank you to Demo from EVMNS for recording this short audio message for us, introducing the project, and also providing me with a script that I can share with you guys. So that was very, very thoughtful of them. Couple interesting highlights that I'd like to recap. They're going to be, they announced a super airdrop to bridge EOS mainnet users. They're going to be airdropping 12-character EVM names to over 5 million accounts on the EOS blockchain. That sounds awesome. They also released the pricing structure for EVMNS names. 3 characters at $100, 4 characters $50, and 5 characters are above $5. So some cool information shared here from the team, and yeah, thanks to the team for providing this audio message for us. Meta is accusing me of being a pop token shill. Absolutely, I'm a pop token shill. Definitely go grab your pop tokens in the pop bot chat. And if you host other events, if you're EOS community events, reach out to me. We can help you distribute some pop tokens to your communities as well. All right, moving on to our next topic of the day. We're going to be talking about the recent Eden election results. So this election happened on Saturday. I'm not sure of the exact turnout of how many people showed up, but I think it was around 50. And I'm just going to quickly give a shout out to all of our new Layer 1 delegates. So in order of group number, we've got EOS Mel, Adam Ziatarski, Michael Tulenko, Dominic Thomas, Mo, Dwayne, Dan Singjoy, Tiago, Patrick Lovejoy, Nova Crypto, Gabriel Shaw, Liam, Nguyen, Nicola, and there was 3 groups that did not reach consensus. So congratulations to all our new level 1 delegates. And a big congratulations to our new chief delegates, Mo, Gabriel, and Nova Crypto. So congratulations to our new chief delegates. If any of these elected delegates are here with us today, I would invite you guys to jump on the mic, say a few words if you want. If not, I can certainly share a couple thoughts that I have.
Hey, Stefan, this is Gabriel. I'll steal the time away from you to share your thoughts, but I'd love to hear them. The turnout was about 50, and it's really interesting that a few groups didn't achieve consensus. It kind of suggests to me that people are in conflict, which is part of what we want to ferret out in the process. But at the same time, there's a lack of alignment. I'm very, very enthusiastic this term to push towards to continue. I think the good work that was done by both Mo and Lenny and contributors, the other L1 delegates from last term, and to continue in the direction that they started. And a big part of that is just lining the ducks up in a row, just bringing a little bit more order and organization to the direction that has already been inspired. So we're forming working groups. I would love to see the people that are on this EOS Fireside Chat feel more engaged, more interested to participate what is happening in the Eden on EOS community. So I'm going to be looking for those kind of opportunities. We're going to continue again the direction of forming working groups and try and bring a bit more formality to that. If any of you have experience or perspective on how working groups should or could be organized, then please contribute. And if you want to work inside of the working groups, maybe if Mo's on the call or you guys, you'll get an update soon enough as we start to publish. But I think it's 5. The idea is 5 now working groups going through election and governance, comms and media, technical and development, and a few others slips my mind right now. But if you guys want to be involved, then please raise your hand, come into the Eden on EOS community Telegram, find those channels, find the general discussion, find the planning document that we've started to put together where we're outlining. The document has three sections. The first is the chief delegate perspective, and what Mo, myself, and Patrick will be discussing will be transparently presented in that document for everyone to see. The second section then is for the L1 delegates, for them to list their interests, the things that they care about in terms of the Eden on EOS community, whether they're committed to doing anything with those things at this time or not, or feel empowered to do so, at least to share their interests, right? And that should be on the basis of why they were elected as L1 delegates. They are representing the voice of the community that elected them to L1 delegate. And so those interests should hopefully be fully presented in this planning document, so that again, we're building transparency, we're demonstrating that we want all of the voices to be heard and included in this new direction for Eden on EOS. And then the third section of the document is then the working groups. So this is where people who are just any member from the community can participate to some extent with a commitment to actually help us move things forward. I think the intention for Eden on EOS was never that the chief delegates would be just doing their own pet project. That's not my perspective on what the community should be. My idea in my role as chief delegate is to help curate and help organize the interests of the community. And that's what I want to see. That's what I try and inspire and help to do. So I'm there as much of a servant leader as I can know how to be, is to bring the interests of the community, to organize it, and to help get those working groups operational. Thanks, Stefan.
All right. Thank you, Gabriel, and congratulations on becoming a chief delegate for this latest election Eden cycle. All right. Who else do we have here in the chat? Is Mo around? I believe he is not, but I know.
Yeah. Hi.
Oh,
I'm
Mo,
here.
he is. Hey, Mo, you are here.
Yes.
Great.
Yes. Just wanted to say that basically I'm very happy that that the direction that we proposed was ratified. So fairly happy with the outcome of the election and appreciate the vote of confidence from the community. And simply to echo some of what Gabriel was saying, I think he pretty much covered everything pretty well. But just to say that the funds from the delegates and the chief delegates, 50% of their funding is being asked to be donated to go towards the working groups. So there should be a fair amount of funding that should incentivize a lot of the community to go in there and contribute. So we hope that there will be more activity coming from the community. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Mo, and congratulations on being elected chief delegate, and for all the support that you've accumulated for this new direction that you proposed as a chief delegate last Eden cycle. So in case it wasn't very clear, the funding distribution is proposed to change this cycle. So even if you're not elected as a level 1 delegate, you can still earn a share of the funding distribution by showing up to these circles, doing work, and then getting rewarded by your peers every week. So just wanted to highlight that, make that very clear, and like Mo and Gabriel encourage you guys to show up to these circles if you want to contribute in various aspects of the Eden experiment, I guess. Okay, should we invite Patrick at this time, or are there other people that want to talk before we hand over control to Patrick?
Yeah, hello.
All right, Patrick, I think we're ready. Congratulations on being elected chief delegate. Glad to see you being able to elected at that position. And yeah, if you want to share a few words, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah, first time.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. For me, it's just like normal. I just want to continue what I do always. So I am very honored to be with Mo and Gabriel, because I think they are very entrepreneurial. So on this term 7, we can really continue to do all what was settled on the last term on the right way. And I think we have different skill sets that are very interesting, the 3 CDs. And we have our first meeting on Tuesday. Already on Monday, I was with Mo, produced the video of this weekend. You have I will push again the video here, because that's lost with all these messages. So that was the election of this Saturday. that was a good election for me. All was going fine. The upvote bot was working well, hopefully, because the UI is not always perfect. So you have the upvote bot. We were very well helped with that. So yeah, I just want to do exactly what I stated into my first round, my second round, and then into the main room. I stated 3 times the same thing because I want to do exactly what I say. So I hope I will be able to do so on this term. And I join really what Gabriel stated. We need people joining the working groups and giving part of their funds to the working groups. That's like a mutual fund. And we use the money that we have. We don't ask money to someone else. We use the money that we have and we help us each other. So more collaborative. Today there was an Hypha call. I was there, Hypha DAO, very interesting, by Zyzen Global. 1 hour call, very interesting. So there are, on this term, different possibilities to do partnerships with Hypha, with other partners, contractors. So that's very startup oriented. The document of Gabriel that he has prepared is very well organized in 3 sections, so that's very easy to find the topics. There is a mind map that is helping also. So I think if you follow the things and you want really to do something helpful, that's the place to go. We don't waste time. We want really to do all what we can on this term. I am very confident. That's all what I want to say. Not too much discussion now. I don't like that. I want really to do the work and continue what Lenny and Mo have put in place on term 6. That's all what I want. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. And congratulations to all our new chief delegates. On my side, I mean, not much to add to what has already been said. Like I said on the last Fireside, I showed up to the election. I was actually in the same room as Mo, and since he announced that he was running again, I definitely wanted to vote for Mo to show support for the new direction that he has proposed for Eden. Anyone else from the crowd here want to jump in, say a few words? Now's the time.
Hey everyone, this is Dan St. Joy. I wanted to encourage everybody, thanks to Stefan for hosting, and great to hear from Gabriel and Patrick and Mo. I want to encourage everybody to watch the video that Patrick shared of the Eden election term. We had a very interesting discussion, and I shared some reasons why I wasn't some concerns about the bylaw proposal, and encourage everybody to check that out and think it through. And I'm wondering, Mo had said that he's happy that it's ratified, so I'm wondering if it has been ratified, the bylaws that have been proposed, and then if not, I think that Mo said there's a meeting on Thursday, still 18 UTC is the time for the general Eden on EOS meeting, so I'm wondering if the chief delegates are open to modifying the bylaws and not ratifying them as such, and taking community feedback into account. Thank you.
Hey, Dan. No, I was mentioning that I was happy that the community ratified the direction by voting for us, who were all aligned in that direction. The bylaws have not been ratified yet. As I've commented earlier, we want the community to continue having input on the bylaws, the dispute resolution, and the purpose paper moving forward, and hoping that we can ratify them towards the end of the term.
Okay, and thanks, Mo. So is the best place to discuss these things at the bylaw working group or at the delegate meetings? And could you just maybe share the times that people could come to these meetings to discuss them?
The timing for the bylaw meetings has not been established yet. We're hoping to form the working groups in the coming week. So we would encourage everyone to fill out the documents that Gabriel has made available and Yeah, the Bylog working group would be the place to be involved in that part of the process.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. I'm also wondering too if there's been any discussion about the moderation of the Eden on EOS group. If there's a place where we can discuss that, is that in the media and comms group? You think, or
most likely that's being discussed as of right now, but it's going to be in the governance or in the comms and media group.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Thanks for the answers. Also, just a preview. Thanks everybody for the election. I probably should have said that first, because it's always very inspiring to see everybody come together and encourage people to watch and learn and discuss. It's really cool stuff that the Eden community is doing as a whole. One other thing I wanted to mention was that at today's Eden Fractal meeting, we were discussing collaborations or like just different ways that Eden Fractal and Eden on EOS could work together. Dwayne made a proposal and we had most discussions. So I'll share that in the chat soon once we get that video edited. But looking forward to speaking about how we can best collaborate to help out the Eden and the EOS community and the world as a whole as much as possible. And I'm really
That's
excited.
appreciated, Dan. From our part, what we would encourage everyone to do is fill out that the documents that Gabriel has made available for everyone so that we can start organizing these working groups as soon as possible and get them launched and ready to go. The less time that we waste, the better. So I think they're all already linked and available in the members channel of Eden. And remind everyone that once again, the all delegates meeting is on Thursday at 18 UTC. I'm sorry, 18 UTC. We encourage all of the delegates to be there and then get caught up on the information and all of the current events that are going on. All of the Eden members are also welcome to join. So and contribute your opinions.
Oh, Stefan.
Yeah. Let me just take advantage of also, given the bit of silence, the documents that that Gabriel has made available are also for Eden members. So it's not just the delegates that we want to fill them out, but all Eden members in general, and the community as well can be active in how the discussion goes revolving around Eden on EOS in the Eden on EOS public channel, public Telegram channel. That is still open and available for people to contribute.
Has that document been shared in the chat here? Or it's just shared in the Eden channel? Yeah.
In the Eden channel. It's for Eden members and delegates to fill out.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Excellent. Yeah, thanks Patrick there for jumping in. I was definitely speaking to my muted mic just now. Anyone else want to share some final thoughts and comments on the Eden election before we move on to our next topic?
Yeah, I just want to mention a last point. That's very smart that we are not ratifying the bylaw just now to complement what stated Mo and the question of Dan Sinjoy. No rush. We want to do the things very well organized and not going in all directions. So that's as stated during this weekend, and it is recorded during the Saturday election. There is a timestamp about that. We stated clearly, so over the course of the 3 months. So, and we have some milestone to reach. So all that into the 18 UTC meeting of this Thursday with Lenny, that has decided that is okay to moderate the meetings. And he will publish the agenda as the last term. Nothing's changed, well organized. So join there to know more.
All right, thank you, Patrick. We're gonna leave it there for this Eden election.
Thank you, Stefan.
All right, congrats once again, guys. All right, moving on to our next topic, slightly related, still in the world of DAOs. At this point, I'd like to invite Dominic from Hypha DAO to give us a bit of an update on Hypha DAO. And specifically, I'm curious about knowing more about the tokenomics and the referral and affiliate program with Hypha. Dominic, are you ready to jump on stage here? Don't have permission to speak. Classic situation. Let me add you the correct role. There we go. And now if you leave and come back, you should have permission. You can just leave the channel and come back, should be good.
All right, that worked.
There we go. That worked. Welcome to the fireside, Dominic.
Yeah, thank you. It's a nice opportunity to start talking about a little more about Hypha, because we are actually starting to move here and upcoming launch in the coming weeks. So we don't have an exact date, but it's pretty soon here. We have a nice release of the software right now that we're working in every day, and so the goal is to just get a nice bug-free release with the base features and then go from there. But yeah, so we have a bunch of opportunities for people who are interested in helping out Hypha, learning more about DAOs, obviously getting into a DAO. But we really invite the EOS community to participate as much as possible. You know, Hypha is obviously kind of put our stake in the ground here. You know, the beta launch will occur on EOS mainnet, so there will be all the smart contracts and all the software that's blockchain related will be running on EOS and as well as Telos. So there'll be kind of two of the coalition chains that we'll be running on. And you know, we obviously want to take care of and work with our kind of like our home community first and foremost. So we have an affiliate program that we're just launching. We've had 2 meetings, I think. Alex Prate, who spoke earlier today in the Zaizen call, I believe, he's been running those meetings. I attended one. I'm also going to be, for those of you who are in time zones in the Australia, you know, Asia, Southeast Asia districts of the world, I'm going to be doing one in the evening at like 8 p.m. Eastern. Would also serve as like a after work call for people in the U.S. And potentially, I guess, you know, just Eastern Europe, Western Europe. But this call is designed for those people on the other side of the world, so it's in their morning and they can get a chance to participate too. But the affiliate program's pretty simple. We ask you to participate in a series of these calls so we can get you fully up to speed on the software. Just make sure that, you know, we're all speaking the same language. You know, we don't want people going out there saying 100 different things about Hypha. That would be terrible for the brand and confusing, of course, to people. And we want to, you know, we want to have that close relationship with our affiliates. We'll have a channel in our Discord for ongoing communication, and it's a pretty robust program. I believe it's sitting at like an 11% commission right now. So, you know, if you bring in a project as an affiliate and introduce it to Hypha, and that project then goes on to purchase one of our plans, you know, you're going to get an 11% commission. And that's going to be Hypha tokens. But I believe on the plans where they're paying cash, that might also still run true. I don't know if Gab's still on the call. He can beat me up if I'm wrong or coordinate that. But nonetheless, it's definitely an 11% commission. And so, as you can imagine, that could add up pretty quick. But then, if you really think about it, and you're an EOS token holder, you're kind of winning in 2 levels because, you know, I've been saying to people that if you're starting a chain right now, or you have a chain in the Web3 world, you want some kind of DAO software because it attracts the 2 things that chains need, which is users and apps and projects, right? You know, every person who signs up and becomes a member of a Hypha DAO on Telos or EOS mainnet, depending on where the DAO decides to live, and we anticipate most will probably choose EOS for a variety of reasons, most notably the liquidity, but also the large community that's already over there. So as we're bringing these projects in and you're helping us bring in projects, they may decide to build on EOS. They may not know where they're building yet and then decide to build on EOS. They may decide to build part of what they're doing on EOS. But no matter what, as these projects grow and bring on members, that's going to be new EOS accounts, right? So these are going to be people that are getting introduced to EOS. And that's the only real way that we're going to create the kind of value we want and see the tech used, right? You know, there's been so much built. We just heard all this phenomenal information from Gnome, and, you know, I call him Gnome. I guess I don't call him Gnome, but it's just a shame, right? You know, I don't want us to become beta to the VHS of Ethereum. And for those of you who are 35 plus, you'll understand that analogy, and others will just think I'm old, but you know, the gist of it being like, we know the superior technology is here. We've had the best builders in the world working on this thing. We just want to see it used, you know, and hats off to the ENF and the soon to be live ENV, I assume, and everybody else who's been working hard. But let's get it out there, and a good way to do that is through Hypha. We can really all benefit from bringing projects in. So there's that. And then I think, Stefan, did you want me to talk a little bit about, well, I guess there's the ambassador program. The ambassador program's say a little less committed program, but that's also a way to get involved with Hypha, earn some Hypha tokens, I believe, and have a little more access to what's going on in regular updates. And the ambassador program is still a bit of a work in progress, so we encourage people who want to be a part of it to come on over and tell us what you think. What can we build with this? How can we make this better? But you know, we see it as people who might like attend conferences and speak on behalf of Hypha, or evangelize for Hypha while you're there. Make networking connections, help with partnerships. Sky's the limit, but we are running these programs because we want to give people an opportunity to just be well educated about it. So you feel confident when you're talking about Hypha. And again, just like with the affiliate program, making sure we're all kind of singing from the same hymn sheet and speaking the same language when it comes to Hypha. On top of that, too, I believe these are going to come with like badges as part of your membership in the Hypha DAO. As an affiliate, as an ambassador. And so, you know, we hope over time as Hypha grows and has more resources, we'll be able to increase those rewards in a variety of ways and really enrich the community. It's an important note that Hypha is not like standard Web3 for-profit projects. There is a commitment in our constitution, in the vast majority of our documentation. We're running Hypha as a for-profit business because we believe the nonprofit model is largely broken in many ways. And it's an incredibly difficult way to grow a project because you're just shilling for donations all the time. I mean, if you've ever worked in a nonprofit or known people who have, they'll tell you that half their time, effort, energy, and resources will just go into getting more money. And that just seemed ridiculous to us. So in many ways, there's companies that are emerging that I would say are for-profit business model with a non-profit mission and a non-profit set of core values, and really a non-profit profit sharing model, right? So what does that mean? Well, obviously, there's no equity in Hypha. We're a true DAO. Like we work in it every day. You know, everything has to go through the DAO. My role goes through the DAO. The other members of the DAO can vote me out if they think I'm terrible, I'm not doing a good job. There are no bosses, but I answer to the DAO and I answer to all the members of the DAO. So in that sense, there's people who hold Hypha tokens and have been rewarded with the Hypha token, but nobody has any stock, there's nothing like that. And so any profit that we begin to make that goes above and beyond our operating costs is going to get driven back into the Hypha ecosystem and the Hypha community. And that could be sizable over time. That's something that's really exciting to us. The end game for Hypha really isn't so much about the DAO software. It's about what the DAO software enables. And that for us is hopefully a gigantic ecosystem of DAOs that are all, working together, have, multi-layered relationships, financial, professional, service-based. We want a ton of funding organizations to be in there. We have this concept of something called a service DAO, and some of you professionals out there might be interested where, it's a program where if you want to be a service DAO, you speak to Hypha. We create a sort of an MOU that we put through both of the DAOs, and you're basically Hypha verified. So it's like a Hypha verified vendor. And that just means we got to meet your team, we checked you out, we did some due diligence, and of course we'll be ongoing, in ongoing communication and making sure that our service DAOs are achieving the standards that we've set for ourselves in terms of, honesty and transparency and so on. But, it's a really a unique opportunity to kind of be at the front row of the Hypha community so that as DAOs come in, what I want to be able to do, because I also do a lot of sales for Hypha. I've been on calls for weeks now. I want to be able to talk to these people and say, oh yeah, this guy I spoke to this just before this call, actually, from France. He's an older gentleman in his 70s, super interesting guy, built all kinds of crazy software back in the 90s, and he's got this killer idea about local economies with a macro market that finalizes, settles the day's transactions and so on. He's talking all this stuff, some of it even over my head, but he has this idea where he wants to come in and try to implement this sort of financial system, start by doing it within a single DAO, then build an ecosystem and so on. But there's so much that would go into that, right? This gentleman obviously has a software development background and I think a pretty deep engineering mind, but he doesn't know how to market this thing, most likely. He doesn't know how to put together, all the operations and teams and everything else he's going to need. And so there'll be a large amount of service providers required for the DAOs to thrive. We're putting together programs and hopefully as we start to, grow our revenues and grow our funding base, we'll be adding to our team. But the vision is never for Hypha to become this sort of massive monolithic organization. That's the antithesis of what we're doing. We want the community to service the community. Hypha's just a DAO within the community. You can purchase Hypha tokens and stake them in order to start an ecosystem, right? That gives you something called an anchor DAO. You have a button in that DAO to create more DAOs. It's basically a reseller. You could set up with one of those. The software's open source, and you could start adding modifications. You could add integrations. You could build apps that go in, and work with the Hypha DAO software. That's awesome. That's exactly what we want to see. So there's really a lot of opportunity here when it comes to working together. So I think I've run my mouth long enough about that. But it is something I'm excited about because when I heard about that vision, when I joined Hypha about 6 months ago, that really pulled me in. I think the last part is we do have a new token model. I don't believe we've published the documentation yet. We might be still polishing the edges of it, but it's actually quite simple. The Hypha token is required for a seat in a DAO, first and foremost. So what does that mean? Well, when a DAO wants to add new members, it has to stake 5 Hypha tokens per member, right? 5 Hypha tokens. We sell the Hypha tokens at $1 a piece right now. And we think that's actually quite low, but hey, we're brand new, right? Our software's just coming out and we want as many people to start using it as possible. Over time, the way in which Hypha will start to get and generate more funding in order to do some expansion of the team, of course, we are pretty small right now, and hire developers and so on and pay for initiatives, is we'll raise the token price, right? So We're selling it for $1 now. Maybe in 6 months we sell it for $1.50 because we've added new features and there's demand, right? And so on and so forth. And so over time, Hypha will raise the token price to what we think is an equivalent value of a membership in a DAO. Now, 5 Hypha tokens, you're a member in a DAO. The cool part about that is it's only 5 tokens. So let's say you join, Hypha DAO, and then you join, Patrick's Service DAO. Patrick's Service DAO now puts up 2.5 tokens, and Hypha only has to stake 2.5 tokens on your behalf. So it's always 5 tokens. That never changes. And so it's really a lifetime seat for a single member. But the way we designed it is we didn't want DAOs to compete for members in any way, right? And so we set it up so that it's really kind of a cooperative model where if I have 100 members and each of those members are members of, 3 other DAOs, then I only have to put up, I just came up with a dumb number, but I think it's like 1.333 or 1.666. That's all I have to put up for tokens for each of my 100 members because they're members in other DAOs and so on. So it's a really neat model. I think it's packed with value. It's not your standard Web3 token model. It's not designed to be some 1000x. We do sell tokens in bulk for people who might be interested, and I'm sure other people want to kill me for saying it's not a 1000x token, but it isn't. That's not the point of it. The point of it is a true utility token. It's required to put somebody in a DAO, to add a member to your DAO. The other way in which it's used, as I alluded to earlier, is the ecosystem DAO, right? So this is the reseller type thing I was talking about, where you stake 5,500 Hypha tokens and you get an anchor DAO. What you're also getting now is 1,100 member seats that you've prepaid for, okay? So you get 2 things with that. You get the 1,100 prepaid seats and the ability to now create your own DAOs in your own ecosystem. And the benefits of that will expand over time. Right now, they're relatively simple, but in time, we'll have things like an ecosystem can have, instead of just a token for each DAO, it can have an ecosystem token that all of the DAOs can share that might act as a currency or a unit of trade or a utility token or whatever. But once you have that anchor DAO, 5,500 tokens, you can create new DAOs, and those are staked at 550 tokens. But again, come with another 110 prepaid seats. And so as you can see, you're able to just keep adding these DAOs to your ecosystem, and you can do whatever you want. You might make DAOs and then charge people a fee to operate in the DAO, and maybe you're going to support them in different ways. Or like I said earlier, maybe you've built a new product or some other app, pre-existing app, and you've come up with a cool integration, and you're only going to make it available to people in your DAO ecosystem. I hope you wouldn't do that, but maybe you do. Maybe there's good reasons to do that. Maybe you provide some service. Maybe you're creating an incubator or an accelerator. That's a really cool model. That's something that Eden's actually potentially going to do here that we're exploring, where Eden will become an anchor DAO and have its governance and so on in there. But then each project that comes into an incubator or accelerator type situation or a funding situation, Eden will put up the tokens for them to have a DAO. And so now they've, this new startup has an organization, an organizational setup where they can, obviously do governance and proposals and payroll and, all the different functions that are available in a Hypha DAO with all that transparency and decentralized decision making. So, it's a really exciting way. There's lots of ways to get engaged. We will also have a standalone software as a service plan and a free plan. The free plan's for up to 5 members. So any of you who are considering experimenting, reach out. I'll get you set up into a DAO. We'll get you activated, and you can start experimenting and seeing what you can come up with and whether or not you want to pursue it further. The SaaS plans start at like $44, and basically they come with a certain amount of core members and secondary members. I won't go deep with that for this conversation, but I think I've talked enough. I mean, why don't I just leave it there, Stefan, and if anybody has any questions, I can answer.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks for that great, clear explanation. token model seems interesting to me. Looking forward to reading a light paper or some more information on that. Anyone else have some questions for Dominic? Now's the time. All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you, Dominic, for joining us today. And we'll talk to you again soon enough, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Have a good day.
I guess final news here about Hypha DAO. The webinar was today. I think it was at the same time as the Fireside. So unlikely you guys were listening to both shows at the same time, but it will be available on replay, so you can.
In UTC, that was.
Oh, it was in UTC.
I just put it into the chat now. I was participating there.
There you go. How was it, Patrick?
To say what said Dominic, in 1 hour they have made really a good overview and also into the detail. What is Hypha? What is the place to regulate? So Liechtenstein for LVC. So they confirmed that themselves they are regulated there. So and that was hosted by Zeisen Global, by Adam Buktila, very well made. Quality of the call, nothing to say, like a television. So really digestible and good audience and question during the presentation. You can ask your questions. So if there is another one, I will surely join again. I recommend. And for
cool.
EOS, we are really interested to collaborate with Hypha.
There you go. All right. Thanks, Patrick. And thanks again, Dominic.
Yeah. Thank you, Dominic.
All right. It's been 2 hours. We've got a couple more topics to review. I'm going to go over them fairly quickly. So let's get to it. What else do we have? Oh, yes, that's right. Twitter Spaces tomorrow, hosted by the ENF. We're talking about the future of NFTs on EOS. We've got, I'll be joining the call. We've got Rob Rigo from Facings, which we've heard from a couple times recently on the Fireside, as well as Granite from Collectify, which is a new app that has, or it's an app that has recently integrated the EOS EVM. So I'm looking forward to asking more questions and understanding more about this app to Granite tomorrow. If you're interested in NFTs, if you have a project on EOS that has NFTs, join us. The mic will be open for people who want to jump on with us, share some comments, share their projects. And yeah, should be a good time with some great guests talking about NFTs on EOS. All right, and that was one of the quick hitters. Another quick hitter topic here. I'm going to share a thread from Pinax talking about Firehose and Substreams for the Antelope ecosystem. So we talked about this a couple times on recent Firesides. Basically, Firehose and Substreams is new technology that's going to enable dApp developers to build great dApps on Antelope with through the Firehose and Substreams stack. So I'm just going to go over this thread real quickly. It shares a bunch of links to a bunch of relevant resources. If you're new to Firehose and Substreams, possibly it's the first time you hear about this. It is new. We have just started talking about this. So let's get into it. The thread starts with, let's unleash Firehose and Substreams for the Antelope ecosystem. A high-speed blockchain protocol, that's Antelope, meets a top-tier Web3 standard for indexing blockchain data. That's Firehose and Substreams. It's a match made in heaven. So Antelope IO, of course, processes transactions at lightning speed and minimal cost. Home to leading GameFi dApps like Upland and Alien Worlds. It's generating loads of data. And so we're introducing Firehose and Substreams, and this data gets easily accessible so Web3 devs can dream big. While the Antelope ecosystem already has some blockchain history solutions, there's room for improvement. Diffuse, for instance, is costly to operate, and that impacts its widespread use, reliability, and decentralization. Firehose and Substreams will offer more flexibility. Firehose Substreams is built by Streaming Fast, and it's the evolution of Diffuse and represent a giant leap forward for data indexing. This technology is now chain agnostic. Diffuse used to be only for Antelope, but Firehose and Substreams is now available on many different blockchain ecosystems, and it's gaining adoption across all of Web3. The future of blockchain, of course, is multi-chain. EOS has been getting ready for it, and this is another piece of that puzzle. Firehose and Substreams work in tandem to drive next generation Web3 dApps. Here are the benefits that Firehose brings to infrastructure operators. It's more flexible, more affordable, more reliable, and easier to handle. Substreams has many benefits for developers. It's composable. Devs can build on top of each other's works. It's parameterizable, gets specific details from other substreams. Transformable, allows you to define the output format of your choice. And parallelizable, data is processed in chunks and results gets merged. So if you're building on Antelope and you want to start using Firehose and Substreams, you can dive deeper with this video from Matthew Darwin that goes over some of the highlights and some of the features of this new technology. And then if you want to get some hands-on action, we're excited to say that Firehose and Substreams is available on EOS and on Wax. There's no public API just yet, but if you reach out to us, we can definitely hook you up with what you need to start testing and building on Firehose and Substreams. So reach out to us, reach out to Pinax, reach out to me, Matthew, Denis, and we'll get you set up. Denis, speaking of Denis, he was on the Fireside not too long ago talking from his perspective about why he's excited about Substreams and Firehose. I'll share that video here as well. And then, of course, some other information you can find in that thread, linking to other threads and stuff like that. So just wanted to remind you guys about Firehose and Substreams. And yeah, Denis with us today. If anyone has any questions, yeah, feel free to ask some Firehose and Substreams questions. We've got Denis with us here. If not, we're going to go on to our next topic in just a bit.
One question for is so Substreams and Firehose is sort of a streaming service, so it uses gRPC. So I think a lot of applications that are building the games or that want that sort of instant response from the blockchain have a need for either WebSockets or sort of webhooks. So I would be really curious to know how many applications that are looking for sort of real-time streams of blockchain data and what are the requirements. So we hear a lot of people that want sort of WebSocket streams of what's happening on the blockchain based on their smart contract. And that's something that Substreams can deliver. We're still kind of early on that type of tech stack, but it is essentially, you can build streaming services of your live events from your contract. So it'd be really curious to know which games are trying to build a high frequency event blockchain gaming, and we'll be glad to help them out.
Lewis in the chat here asks, what's the coolest thing Firehose could achieve in the next 3 to 6 months, in your opinion, Denis?
Yeah, replaying all of EOS in like, I don't know, under an hour, let's say. So one of the things with blockchain history, or let's say like fetching data from blockchain, is it's a moving monolithic piece of database, right? So the yeah, if you're familiar with, let's say, trying to replay the entire history of a blockchain, it does take an eternity. So some solutions would kind of do it linearly. It would process the chain from block 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it would essentially compute the blockchain from 0 to the latest block. And that would literally take even a month. Actually, it is calculated in months and not in days or hours. So with Substream, we can kind of do a lot of like parallel processing, and we're getting down into processing. I think Ethereum, again, Ethereum has less transactions, it has less blocks because of the block speed, but I think we can process Ethereum in 50 minutes, and I think EOS is in the 3. Maybe Matthew has that number exactly, but it's about in the 3 hours, which means that you can process all the events on that particular blockchain in parallel and receive all your data. And then you can either load it into a flat file or into a database. So one of the things that'd be really cool is to try to get to see how fast we can replay the EOS blockchain from block 0 to block today and see how fast we can get that. And I think we can probably do about under an hour, but at the moment we're at 3 to 4 hours. So and if you're looking into replaying an entire blockchain in hours, it's actually extremely fast because there's a lot of data and a lot of blocks. So Matthew,
awesome. Thanks for those numbers. Always love hearing about those impressive numbers. And Matthew's not with us here today, but we'll keep everyone updated on the various benchmarks that this new technology achieves as it gets refined over time. Yes, thank you, Dave. Thank you. Yeah, no, that's good. Thanks for jumping in. So we're going to move on to our final topic here. Just really quickly, want to highlight the Everything EOS June report has been published. If you've missed the last couple of firesides, you can catch up on all the biggest stories of last month in this report. We're talking the 5-year anniversary celebration that happened at the start of June. There's also a recap of course, the EOS EVM version 0.5 that's been released. Talk a bit about a couple podcasts that Eve was on, including Real Vision and the WaveAct podcast that Zach was on, Pomelo Season 6 updates, and wrapping it up with a review of the BP call that happened last month. That was pretty exciting. So that's gonna wrap up the topics I had planned for today. At this point, we're gonna open up the mic for the community. If you guys have updates you want to share with us, if you've got off-topic banter you want to talk about, now's the time to do it.
Stefan?
Patrick?
I have something to share for you guys. I put that into the chat here. I hope it's working. Let me see. Okay. Next. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Voila.
We ready?
I am ready. You see my post?
That is a busy picture. What's going on here in this picture?
Yeah, that's the 21 workshop. Very busy with the bees, with Effect Force, Jesse Hayes of Effect Force. We have Pomelo, Daniel Keys, end of season 6, and we will speak a little about season 7 for sure. So that's just, and EOS Dean also, that's just 3 guests. But what does 3 guests have in common? It's all about also hidden on EOS. There will be a parenthesis in every interview, and I begin the interview next week. And I will publish that on July 24 until July 28. The 4 interviews will be published every day, 1 video. Not in one time, but in a week-long multimedia experience that will use ChatGPT summary with Jesse Jaffe, that will use Midjourney, that will be published on Bywire. So that's the 21 workshop. And you can join on YouTube Nova Crypto Ltd. You see on the image. So very well organized as always. Straight to the point, not waste of time. Video of 30 minutes, maximum 40 minutes, all time stamped. And you will learn, as always, about how does project benefit EOS and benefit the non-EOS. There is a lot of connection. So you are welcome to join. Join the YouTube. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for that invitation. And congratulations on your 21st workshop. Fairly impressive and reliable.
Also when sick.
Also when sick. Yeah, you've been adding that to your description. Not sure it's necessary, but yes, even if sick, you will do the presentation. Good to know.
Yeah, I am committed for the community. I will always be there. So you are welcome to join. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Patrick. Is the soundboard working for anyone else in here? Seems like Lewis is freaking out. His soundboard's not working.
Yeah. Yes, that's working.
Confirmed, Lewis. You're the only one that's not able to run sounds.
Is the Yeah Baby working also?
Yeah, baby, yeah.
Voila.
There's a question I'd like to ask about the EVM, Stefan.
Yes, what's up, Dan?
Okay, cool, thanks. I've just been wondering, and maybe it's been covered. I know, like, I've learned a lot about the EVM and how it has full RPC compatibility and stuff like that. And I'm wondering what the process is like to, I guess, onboard apps that have EVM integrations with other chains onto EOS. For example, looking into places like websites, basically, and services that help people run events. Like there's Luma, lu.ma, and there's Mighty Networks and several others that have integrations with EVM, and they have integrations with Ethereum, maybe Polygon and stuff like that. And I'm wondering if I want to use those services but use them with the EVM, what would be the process to do that? Like, is it pretty simple to hook up? And is there anyone at the ENF that I should reach out to, or should I just reach out to the companies directly? I'd appreciate any guidance about, like, because there's a lot of amazing EVM tools. I know you mentioned Collectify, which I looked into and it looks really cool, but to do more apps that have EVM but haven't yet worked with EOS EVM, how easy or difficult would that be? And what would be the strategy to start working with them on EOS EVM?
Is Zach still with us? I feel like that's a nice classic Zach question, but I don't think he is. From what I understand, the apps themselves need to enable the EOS EVM from their app for us to be able to use it through the EOS EVM. So I don't think you could do that on your own, you know. But so what you need to do is you need to convince these apps to enable the EOS EVM. So reach out to the dApps, send them information about the EOS EVM incentive program that is going on for the ENF right now. And so they get to fill out a form, and then they could potentially qualify for $50,000 in funding if they enable the EOS EVM in their app, right? So that can cover whatever development cost they may incur, hopefully, and then leave some extra incentives for them to come enable EOS EVM. Does that make sense, Eve, if you're still here, or anyone else from the ENF, if they're still here?
I am still here, but I didn't really understand the question. If you mind asking again, I'll gladly answer. I didn't really understand what you were asking.
Very simply is, if I'm using an EVM app somewhere on some network, but it's not enabled for EOS EVM, what's the process to get them to enable EOS EVM, and is that hard?
Yes, then your answer was correct. Correct. They would need to enable it. It's really on them.
But there's incentives that we can point them to nudge them along in the right direction.
Yes, correct. So we've got a list of, and I think you shared a few earlier, like Motodex, Nerve, I think was another one you shared. We've got about 15 to 18. Some of them are public, so I'm not too sure. I think it's 15 are public. There's a few more that are in the mix. I think there's 6 pending games right now. I actually signed another one this morning. So there are incentives, but we've seen that there are, especially the wallets and the bridges, there are some that just enable it because they see an opportunity.
Does that answer your question, Dan?
Yeah, mostly. I'd still be curious. You said like the $50,000 might be covering costs. It seems like it is fairly capital intensive for them to do so. It's not just like an unswitch. So
no, it's actually the opposite. So I'm oversimplifying, but it's just bear with me. They literally need to double click. So the development cost is very, very low. The majority of the money that typically they're asking for or that we're making available is for marketing. It's to let people know that they've now switched over and they've enabled or they're now compatible with EOS. And so it's more marketing budget than anything else. So the actual cost to enable EVM on their end, because it's full RPC compatible, is minimal, which is why we've also been able to get people to basically port over without any cost, because there's minimal cost. They just deploy their smart contract. So I'm oversimplifying with double click, but it gives you an idea. It's very, very simple on that front.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. Really appreciate all the information, and that sounds great. There's a bunch of great EVM tools. I love to work with EOS and with EOS. I suppose one thing that just came to mind, I don't think it exists, but I'm curious. I haven't had the chance to read into all the EOS EVM incentive program. Is there any incentive, like Dominic was talking about, like an affiliate program where people could earn by helping attract people to Hypha? If I'm able to, me or somebody else is able to attract people to the EOS EVM, would there be any way to like incentivize people like me or others who bring apps to the EOS EVM, or introduce them and do some of that marketing on behalf of EOS?
Well, that's exactly what Eden is positioning itself to be moving forward.
Yeah. Can I jump in? So if you read
Jump around, Pat.
Yeah, thank you. If you read the purpose paper of Tom 6, that's exactly what we stated. So Eden and EOS want to collaborate, if you prefer, with Hypha, for example, in total partnership, or with EOS EVM, or with any platforms that benefit EOS. And Eden on EOS is also a platform, is building a platform. And I leave at that.
But in terms of ENF or other...
Yeah, I'm going to answer, I guess, from ENF point of view. No, we don't have a program for that, Dogman. We do, I guess, if you, let's say you brought an application and you're working with an application, that would be something that you would need to coordinate with them. Should they be recipients of some type of funding or compensation for that, you would need to work with them. But we don't have a program as such. And we do not have intention on creating a program as such.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot for all the information. Really appreciate it.
And just for clarification, in case there's some confusion, so it's up to $50,000 is what we're making available for these ports. The majority of the applications that have ported that have already been made public have not received $50,000. As I said, the actual cost itself of porting over is very low, so it's really dependent on each application. And we make very similar to what we do with the grant framework. It's milestone based. They've got some targets to hit, certain things like KPIs like UAWs, interaction, engagement. There's a bunch of different things that go into this. So it's not $50,000 guaranteed. It's up to $50,000 case by case basis, depending on the application. And we are very much targeting specific types of applications to it. So it's just not anything and everything. And it is possible that it is simply not with the focus of what we're looking to onboard.
All right, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thanks to all our guests and all the speakers that joined the show today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. I'm sure you did. There's a lot of great information shared today. And yeah, we're going to wrap it up there. Hope you have a good week. And until next time, let's go.